So I was like a completely new person.
I've gotten pretty upset about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to show up to these guys' house.
There are humans in this world that would kill for that.
What you're saying makes no sense. Like, I don't get why you're so stressed right now. Like, they
you
don't
ne-
even know they're being snuck up on.
You
dude.
never see it coming,
Yeah.
man.
With kicks like yours, who needs a beat?
Hey, hi, hello. I know you guys have been waiting for that.
We're bringing it back.
So, if you've joined us for the past couple of episodes, or you've listened to them all, if you have, thank you. But you know that Drew and I have a theme for 2025. And our theme
We sure do.
is a quote. It's a quote that I don't remember where Drew got it from, but it's, what would you do if you weren't afraid?
It came from the book Who Moved My Cheese, and everybody should read it or
Go
listen
read-
to it.
go
Whatever
read
you
the
gotta
book. What would you do if you weren't afraid? And it's a question that can convict. I use it to convict myself.
do. Yeah,
When
it's
I'm
a
sitting
very
there-
convicting question.
And I'm like, man, I want to go, talk to her, or I want to knock this out, or should I apply for that internship, or, whatever the situation is. I sit there and I'm saying, okay, if I wasn't afraid, what would I do? Well, I guess
And
I'd probably
it
walk
pulls
out.
the curtain on your fear,
Yeah.
like, instantly.
Well, I guess I'd go up and say something to her. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because everybody knows what they would do if they weren't afraid, and that's what they're afraid of is
Yeah.
the other side, and the rejection or whatever it is. But yeah, very convicting question.
And that's going to be the thing we ride on for all of 2025. And then, even past 2025,
Yeah,
it's going to
it's
be a question I always ask myself. But with that question comes the challenge of controlling your own mind, the challenge of getting up in the attic and controlling what's going on and being in control of how you perceive things and your perspective,
Yep.
how you receive criticism, how you approach a situation,
How you handle anything.
XYZ. So I once heard, I believe it was my real estate broker tell me, the world happens between your two ears. And I really believe, I never really considered it like that until I grew up a little bit and life happened a little bit. And I realized that there's something that I can go through that maybe Drew sees completely differently.
Yeah,
Or
everyone's
Drew
got
goes through
different
something
perspectives.
and it's black and white to me, but to Drew it's gray at best. So it's like,
Yeah,
it's weird how it works. Like an example I can think of is I was going through, I believe I've talked about it before, a bit of an identity crisis over the summer. I was fresh out of a breakup. I had a brand new car. So I sold my first car, which I really loved, but the time had come. And I also had a brand new job. So I was like a completely new person. Everything that I had previously known in the month of July was completely different in the month of August. And it was a big, big learning curve for me and totally out of my comfort zone. I was stressed out, scared, to be honest with you. And and people would look at it and be like, dude, these are all great things. Like, that relationship was causing you a lot of struggle for a while, and that, the car was cool, but now this one's nice and you're in a better spot now with your job. What's the big deal? But for me, it was a whole learning curve and a brand new start on life almost. But I remember talking to my friend Chip, and Chip was saying, why aren't you like excited right now? You should be excited. Like, this is a brand new chapter in your life.
Yep.
And I bring it up because it goes hand in hand with that quote that the world happens between your two ears. How I perceive something and how you perceive something, the same exact situation can be completely different.
Yeah.
Totally different.
Yeah, and actually, just happened to me last week, or like a couple days ago. I got fired from my first job.
Right on.
Right on. I was off the books, so like I wasn't. You could make the argument that I wasn't actually fired because I wasn't actually employed, but I kind of was. But I'm gonna say I was fired just because it's fun that way. I guess I wasn't learning the trade quick enough. I don't know. I got my gripes about it, but it is what it is. And it's the same sort of deal where it's like, yeah, some people will be super, super angry. They might say something to the employer. They might freak out. To me, it was like, happens. You know what I mean? And you just kind of go home. It's like, yeah, it sucks, but it is what it is. And that was kind of that.
Wasn't supposed to happen.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to happen. And that's kind of the thing of controlling your own mind and the world happens between your two ears because, you do have two options at that moment. You can freak out or just take it on the chin and go home.
And it's, I guess, how you approach things like that will define ultimately how fulfilled you are in life and how happy you
Yeah.
are with your circumstances. And
Not taking things too seriously.
yeah, but it then makes you sit back and question, why is it so hard to control my own mind? Like, if it's just
It's
so
tough.
easy to think of the world as a giant happy place and that, you know, everything happens for a reason, why am I stressed out over this situation that just doesn't make sense? Like, why this situation should not be stressing me out objectively, but it is. Why?
Yeah, and
Like,
I
why is
think
it so hard to control that?
we live in a world of noise, man.
It's very noisy.
It's a very
And
noisy world.
it's not a world that our parents had to grow up in, which lucky them. But you know,
Yeah, I mean, it comes with its pros and its cons. But
social media, you know,
how many times have you heard that one?
social media, it's such a buzzword. And I mean, I get sick of hearing about it, but it's true. You hop on Instagram and you're either just, you know, scrolling through garbage, you're hearing about things you don't need to hear about, or maybe you're seeing things you don't need to see.
Yeah.
And that, I guess that can contribute to it. You know,
You have a guy in a t-shirt that's way too small for him telling you that because you sit in a chair a certain way, you'll never find a girlfriend.
yeah,
And
just garbage like that.
yeah, I think there's so much noise and there's so much just stuff in this world that, you know, like
Yeah.
you said, our parents 20, 30, 40 years ago didn't have to deal with any of this stuff because it didn't exist. I mean, you didn't have 18 different perspectives readily available for you at any given time at any hour. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it just didn't exist.
And the problem now is that people will jump on your insecurities to then try and sell you a course,
Yep.
and or sell you a book, or
They'll
sell
they'll
sell
fan
you
your
an
flames.
idea, and that can fuel, you know, how you perceive things.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, if you think that the dating scene is shot and you think you never have a chance at finding anybody that'll love you, hop on Instagram, search it up. Within 5 minutes, you'll see 6 reels confirming what you just thought.
Yep.
And that's the danger of it. Or if you think that you'll never be able to make more than 50 grand a year, hop on Instagram and you'll feel nice and insecure after 5 minutes of
Yeah.
searching for it.
You'll be validated.
You'll be validated. That's
Yeah.
the point I'm making. You will always be validated by what you search for.
Yep.
And it's not hard to find it. Literally anything.
Um,
Like anything at all.
I just thought of this. Dean and I, and producer Brandon, honestly, we all have a mutual friend. We call him Sabo. And I've always said that I admire Sabo so much for his ability to control his brain because he just does, like, things just don't seem to bother, unless he hides it really well, but I don't think he does. Like, he has a girlfriend that's 8 hours away and they just FaceTime each night. They text each other, and I'm sure it kind of sucks, but he doesn't wear it on his sleeve. He doesn't complain about it. He's never down about it. Like, he just has such an ability to control his mind.
It's
And
admirable.
it
It
is
really
like
is.
he can really, like, things just don't seem to bother him all. Like, people
Yeah.
might say something about him. He's just like,
He doesn't think too much about things.
no,
Which is admirable.
It's
it really
super.
is.
And I've really, as we get older, I've really noticed that about him, and it's really admirable. Just the way he, like I said, he can control what goes in and out of his mind.
Yeah. See, I'm the opposite. I think a lot. I think a lot about a lot. If there's a situation happening in my life, I will think about it all day. I will lose my appetite. It'll just be on my mind. You can see the gears turning. You can see the smoke coming out of my ears as the gears grind. Like, I'm really crunching this. And I go to Drew and I tell him about it. And he's like, dude, what the hell, man? Like, it's not a big deal. And I'm like, but hear me out. Like, hear me out. And then I go into this whole monologue and he's like, it's great, man, but like still, like,
This happened just the other night.
Yeah.
Like, this whole thing to me, I'm like, what you're saying makes no sense. Like, I don't get why you're so stressed right
like
now.
what you're saying makes sense, but at the same time, Drew said, "quote You're thinking about it too much." No, I'm not.
You're
Yes,
giving
you
it
are.
way too much.
I get
thought.
it from my mom. My mom is a thinker as well. But anyways, I do believe that the constant news cycle, also fueled by social media, but, you know, phones and apps and just constant access and alerts. You know, when mom and dad were growing up, they had the news and, you know, it came on at 6. And if you wanted to find out what Gerald Ford was doing, you turned the news on, you found out. But now, I mean, you're getting a buzz. You see Trump pop up on your phone every 2 seconds. And it's like,
Yeah.
I'm just trying to work, man. Like, you know, like it's just
Yeah.
constant. And it's not just Trump, it's this person's perspective on him, or it's this person's perspective, or the world's ending. And you get all these different, you know, rabbit holes to fall down. And if you choose to fall down them, there you go. There goes your mind. You're focused on this, no longer focusing on maybe what you could be doing to produce a better life for yourself. And when I say that, it's not going out and earning a higher income or anything. It's going for a walk, talking to a family member,
Yeah.
calling a friend. Like it's when people say build a better life, I don't think that can just be limited to monetary stuff, which I feel like always happens.
Yeah, I think people do default to monetary a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, build a better life. I mean, especially I think as you get older, Like I can say this for myself. I mean, I'm a young whippersnapper. I'm only 22, but I mean, I think way differently than I did when I was 18. When I was 18, I wanted, 18 Lamborghinis and a big house, and now I still want a big house, and a Lamborghini would be cool, but I kind of just want like a nice family at this point. But then, like you said earlier, I mean, you go on social media and there's the nuclear family is dying, and Trump hates kids, and he's banning kids, and you'll have every reason to not pursue that. But I think in pursuit of a better life, just turn the phone off, man.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. The mind is just such a powerful place. It really is. The mind is just, it's where everything happens. Like, it's where you see the world. It's where you come up with ideas. It's where you come up with things to say to somebody.
Yep.
Like, the brain and the mind is such a crazy, powerful place. And controlling it and being able to control your own thoughts and mind and focus on things that actually matter is it's a superpower. It really is.
Yeah.
But I believe this was I heard this for the first time back in 2021. I don't remember where, but the quote goes, "What you are thinking about now is likely where you will end up in 5 years." So I actually wanted to ask you, what were you thinking about 5 years ago? And do you think that it played into where you are now?
5 years ago, what was I doing? I was 17. I was, I think, in the middle of my relationship, and graduating high school. Or at least, it was on the cusp of COVID, wasn't it?
No. 5 years ago? Yeah, it was 2020. 5 years ago, actually, probably almost to the day is when COVID started to like really pick up. So,
yeah. So it was kind of a weird time because, well, what could you think about? But I think a big part of me was just looking for something to do that wasn't, I don't know if I really wanted to go to college. So I was trying to think of like, okay, well, how do I get like a really sick Lamborghini and a nice house and not go to college? So I remember listening to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts and landing on real estate. And my plan was to go into real estate and make a ton of money and invest and do all that crazy stuff. And I have taken steps towards that. I got my license. I've been practicing for a couple of years. I've gotten some good sales, but I'm not making $100K a year yet. So
no, but that's to be expected.
Yeah, but I did kind of. I shot for the moon and I landed on the stars.
Wow.
There you go.
Well, you could say that what you were thinking about years ago was what you wanted to do with your career and how you were going to make money. And here you are 5 years later making money.
Yeah.
You just got a deal accepted today.
So yeah, we're taking steps.
You could probably agree with the fact that this quote has some sort of validity to it, I guess.
Yeah. I think, it's a little broad, but I think
sure
there's parts of it that are true.
I guess it's not so much what you're thinking, but what you're focusing on.
Yeah.
What you're thinking / focusing on, which plays into the mind. Because I was kind of in the same boat. Like, trying to figure out my career path, how I was going to get there, how I was going to make money, what do I want to do with my life, and years later, here I am, also with my real estate license, but also working a couple trade jobs and interning with a congressman. So I've got plenty on my plate, but 5 years ago, I loved politics. I still love politics. That's why I'm interning at the congressman's office. Or 5 years ago, I was looking into real estate. Here I am with my license. So it's a little vague, but there is validity to it. And that just comes with mastering your own mind, man. Like,
yeah, you got to learn how to drive that thing.
Yeah, you can drive the car. One more thing before we wrap up the section. I did want to ask you one more question. I mean, you can see it, so you already know what it is. But how, when you're stressed or in a time of crisis, and I say that with air quotes because, I don't know, I feel like you've never really been through a crisis, but
I mean, yeah, it depends on how you define crisis.
It depends how you define crisis, but
not like a serious one, but
yeah. But when you're in times of stress or crisis, how do you control your own thoughts and mind and climb out? What do you do? Like, how does Drew cope?
How do I cope? A lot of alcohol. That's not true. That's not true. I think a lot of the time it's so cliche and it's so stupid, and I've really been trying to focus on it lately, but it's how much of this can I control? And how much of this, have I been able to control? Like today, something went kind of south with my real estate deal. And a lot of it was out of my control. It was stuff that I had no control over in the past that kind of went awry today. And it was like, okay, well, I can't really stress too much about it because there's nothing I can really do about it. Like, it just kind of is what it is. sucks, but it is what it is. So I think a lot of it's that, and also just staying calm and seeing the future almost a little bit. Like when I got fired from my job, it was kind of like yeah, this sucks, but it gives me a little wiggle room now to think about things that I've been thinking about pursuing in the last couple of weeks or months that I've been putting on hold because of this. So when he was telling me like, yeah, dude, you're fired, I was already thinking about like, okay, well, like I wanted to travel and I was thinking about applying to this job. I was like, it is what it is. And it was just kind of that. So I think staying calm and thinking about what I can control are probably the two things. And also just talking to someone. I think just talking to someone, getting a sober perspective on something, I think that can help anybody.
Yeah.
And maybe a high noon. Just kidding. I don't drink to cope. But what about you?
Man, I'm a talker. You know that. When I'm stressed, when I'm dealing with something, whether it's a decision or a situation or whatever, I like to go to my family and talk about it. It's just what I do. It's always how
That's what
I've
the
been.
family's there for, man.
And I will sit down and I'll say, Mom, I need your ears for 5 minutes. Just hear me out. And I need your perspective afterwards. And I'll give her the situation. And then Mom will respond to me. And I say, okay. And then I go to Drew and I say, Drew, this is what's going on. I usually get a lot more direct of a response from Drew. So I talk, Drew gives me a direct response. And sometimes I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Yep.
And then I go to Dad and I say, hey, Dad, like this is what's going on. Talk to me. And he'll talk to me about it. So that's number one. Number two, which I have found helps, is writing everything down. Just getting all of this. If you're not watching, it's me pointing to my head, all of this onto paper and reading it. Saying, okay, here's what's going on. Here's why I think this. Here's why I think this is what's going on. Yada, 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 yada. Get it all down. Go to bed. I like to write before I go to bed because it kind of helps take all of this out. That way I'm not talking to myself until 2:00 in the morning.
I do the same. Oh, I type, but I do the same thing.
Yeah. So I'll type or I'll write. And the third is usually just seeing a friend, going for a walk, exercising, doing some sort of activity where
Yeah, the gym's a good one.
I kind of force my mind to wander elsewhere. So if it's hard to be stressed and worrying about what's going on when you're 3 miles into a run and you're pushing yourself. Like you're not really thinking about the situation anymore. You're kind of just focused on breathing and getting through this terrible run. So
Yep.
that's kind of where I usually go. And I might be missing something, but that's,
Yeah, exercise is a big one for me too.
yeah. So for anybody out there, if you listen to this, feel free to tell us how you cope with things, or hopefully maybe one of those things that we just listed helps you out.
Yeah, go take a walk and talk to your mom.
Yeah, talk to your mom, man. That's what she's there for.
Yep.
And if for some unfortunate reason you don't have a mom, call us. We'll talk to you.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on.
Commentary.
Back. So for those of you who listened to last episode, I know we said that we haven't done a quote in a while, but today we have a quote for you guys.
Yeah,
We have a quote.
Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah, no one asked, but you are receiving.
Yep.
So we might be able to put the dash back in commentary for this episode, or maybe we won't. I don't know.
Yeah.
You'll have to watch to
You might have
find
to
out.
start a free the dash movement.
Free the dash.
Free the dash.
But today's quote goes a little something like this, and apparently it's claimed that a monk said it. But
I was the monk.
Yeah.
It was
Well,
me in a time of
that's
crisis.
impossible because I was the monk. So
I wrote this in a time of crisis. I wrote this in the van when I was fired.
So the quote goes like this: imagine being bit by a snake, and instead of focusing on healing from the poison, you chase the snake to understand why it bit you and to prove that you didn't deserve it.
You know what that sounds like? Victim mentality,
Mhm.
which is no good. You don't want to be a victim. People are not attracted to victims.
No.
I'm not even talking about a romantic sense, which is true. I'm just talking about people in general. I know, like, if you're a dude, if you're a girl, if you're anything, and you act like a victim, it's like an instant turnoff for me.
And people will always smell that on you.
Oh, yeah.
People, the way you tell stories or present yourself or the way you carry yourself.
Yeah. The way you present your stories, the angle at which you present them is pretty telling.
This happened because this person did this, and this is wrong because I don't deserve this and whatever. So
Complainers, man.
I think this quote kind of forces you to zoom out a little bit and take another perspective as to how you're approaching a situation, specifically with people, because I think that the snake is obviously a metaphor for a person. So
Yeah, and the poison is being hurt.
yeah. So instead of chasing somebody down and, defending yourself and being aggressive and trying to prove that you didn't deserve it or whatever, just accept the fact that it happened. And that's when the healing process starts.
Yep.
I remember my brother was going through a bit of a relationship crisis over the summer or fall or whenever that was. And he kept falling into the trap of, well, this isn't true. I didn't do this. And it's like, yeah, we know.
Yeah.
But the second you know that for your own sake, and she can say whatever she wants, but you know what happened, that's when the healing starts. When you
You're at
stop,
peace.
when you stop trying to defend yourself and protect your ego, and you just accept what happens. You know you got poisoned, but you're here to heal it. That's when you can actually climb out of the situation, which goes hand in hand with controlling your own mind.
Yeah.
It's a perspective thing.
Yeah.
If you're gonna chase the snake down your entire life, it's a long life.
Yeah. Don't run after us. Why'd you do that?
Man,
Run after a snake. They bit you.
Donald Trump's the snake. Bit American people.
Bit American people hard. Poison.
No joke.
Poison democracy. Killed it. Swear to God.
Anyways.
Well, on the we seem to have a thing on this podcast for convicting questions. Here's a good one for you. When you're in a situation and you're maybe like complaining about it in your head or you're complaining to somebody else, ask yourself, am I being a victim right now? That is courtesy of Matt Whitehead. So, and Matt's not listening to this, but if he was, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, like that's a great question to ask yourself.
Am I being a victim?
Am I being a victim? Because that's a tough question. Like, what would I do? What would I do if I wasn't afraid? It's a tough question, but it's an easy one because you know the answer. But am I being a victim? It forces
you know the answer.
You know the answer, but it's harder to come to terms with it.
And if you're asking that question, odds are you are being a victim.
Yeah.
So
You've gotten to that point.
it's tough because we all want to just chase the snake, man. Like it's a pride thing, it's an ego thing, it's human nature. You want to chase the snake. You'll be like, I bought you this, and I did this for you, and I drove you here.
And there's a lot of people who do.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of people who do.
I've fallen into the trap.
We all have.
Everybody has.
We all have.
But nothing ever comes of it. You never. It's like when you're at a red light, and a guy pulls up to you because maybe, I don't know, you went around him in the road, and he starts yelling and screaming at you. And it's actually happened to us.
This actually did happen.
A guy was teetering along, so Drew went around him, and then the guy
in a two-lane, by the way.
In a two-lane.
On a two-lane road.
Yeah, so the guy sped past Drew, and he was giving us the middle finger, and then we got to the same red light, and he was lecturing Drew on the speed limit, even though he was just going double that. Yeah. And he was yelling and swearing and calling us names and yada, yada, yada. But Drew and I we didn't sit there and fight back. I actually told him to have a good day. But
I just laughed at him because I just thought it was funny.
The reason I bring it up is because I actually said this to Drew. He didn't drive away from that red light going, oh, man, glad I got to yell at those kids. Like,
yeah, the whole ride home was ruined, and the whole day was probably.
Yeah, he went home to his wife, and he was complaining about it, and he probably told that story to all of his friends, and maybe he was in
kids.
He might have been in a Facebook group somewhere complaining about it, for all we know.
Might have been.
But the point is, it didn't help him. It never helped him. Like, if you break up with your girlfriend and you go and complain to someone about her, you never really walk away feeling better about it. Or like if a friend backstabs you and you go and complain to the other friends about him, it's like you never really feel better about it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. You might in the moment. In the moment it feels good, but it's that short term pleasure that doesn't really last, unfortunately.
You know what I just thought about was my girlfriend and I broke up a couple of years ago at this point, and we were on great terms, have been since. For some reason, her friends have been leaving like voicemails for me, like just prank calling me like years later after we've broken up, and like we're on good terms, like we're both fine. There's no bad blood between us, and they're still prank calling me. So it's like the same thing with the snake. It's like I never have chased the snake. I've gotten pretty upset about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna show up to these guys' house. But You know what I mean? Like it gets to a point where it's like, I know what happened. It is what it
people,
is.
man.
But that's kind of what I just thought about that.
Yeah. So
Can't do nothing right around here, man.
if you've made it this far, don't chase the snake.
No, don't.
Go to the doctors and get medicine for the poison and start healing.
Go for a walk.
Be the bigger person.
You might put the medicine on a table, perhaps. You
And
know
then
what
take it
time
right
is.
off.
You know what time it is. Off the table. Get off.
All right. On the note of convicting people who are listening to this, we have another one for you. And you know who you are.
Yeah, because everybody listening to this has done this.
And if this hits you right where it hurts, consider changing. What we're
Consider
taking off
being
the
better.
table is telling people, I'll let you know, and then never following up.
Yep.
It's annoying.
And you
Very
know
annoying.
what? If you can actually do this, you'll get some serious brownie points with people because I've done it.
Yeah.
I'll set reminders for myself, like follow up with so and so
I've done it too.
a week from now or whatever. And then like a week later, I get the reminder. It's like, oh yeah. And then you text me, oh, I didn't think you were actually gonna text me.
You forget, but the point is, if I'm texting someone or calling someone, like I called a friend of mine, I don't know, late December, and I was like, "Hey man, haven't heard from you in a while. Just wanted to check in. We had a great conversation." And then, of course, at the end of the conversation, it always goes, "Dude, we gotta do something sometime. We gotta grab some food." It's like 100%. Let's do it. And then months and months and months go by, and you call him again, and you have the same conversation. Let's grab some food sometime. But he said, why don't we take a look at it after the holidays and we'll get a date? I was like, all right. So January 2nd, I set the reminder. I totally forgot about it. And then my calendar popped up and said, call Jesse. And I was like, oh, yeah, let me call him. So I called him. And then a week later, we were sitting down at a table together.
Yep.
So it can be that easy, but it takes proactivity.
I actually had another agent in the biz. He approached me once. I ran into him at Wegmans. He's like, dude. And I swear to God, he's like, dude, you told me you'd let me know, and then you did. He's like, I got a text from you like a week later setting something up. He's like, you know how rare that is? I'm like, it's called a reminder, dude.
Be proactive.
Be a
It goes a long way. Don't be the person that never says anything.
Be a human on purpose, dude.
Unless
Text people.
Unless the only exception to this rule is if you really don't want to do something and you're trying to be nice.
That's a good one. That's a good one. It's a good way to let people down. And you're not even, they don't even know.
Yeah, it's the carbon monoxide of excuses.
It is. Like they
You
don't even know they're being snuck up on.
You
dude.
never see it coming,
Yeah.
man.
You know what the super weapon is you let me know. Because now you're putting the ball in their court and they're not going to let you know.
No, they're not going to let you know.
No.
So if you need a way to get out of a situation, there you go.
And the best thing is too, you can rinse and reuse that one every single time.
Oh, yeah.
Let me know. And they go, oh yeah, I will. And they never do.
It's different from
Never.
saying, my dog's birthday is today or then, we're sick today. Like you can't really reuse those excuses, but that one's not even an excuse. You're just simply putting the ball in their court and they're not going to let you know. Most of the time.
But if they do, keep that person close.
Yeah, if they do,
They're special.
maybe they are closer to you than you thought.
Yeah, if they're letting you know, that means they're thinking about you and they want to see you. So
Yep.
why don't you go get a bite to eat with that person?
There are humans in this world that would kill for that. Accept that in your
Yep.
life and appreciate it.
Yep.
But that's all we've got today, I think.
Yeah, that's
So-
about it.
Thanks for listening. If you've made it
Yeah.
this far, do the thing. You
Yeah.
know the thing. Go leave a review, 5 stars, whatever you got to do, man.
Yeah, share it with a friend.
Share
Say,
with
hey,
them.
there's these two really handsome, funny guys, and their perspective is awesome, and you should listen to them.
And they have the best producer on planet Earth.
Yeah, and
I'm
they're
looking at
very
you, Brandon.
They convict me every week with a powerful question, and my life has improved tenfold because of them.
Yeah, so go let your friend know about all of that and more.
Yeah, really sell them on it.
We will see you next week. And go ahead and ask yourself the question, what would you do if you weren't afraid?
Yeah, go do something this week that you might be afraid to do.
Yeah.
Go do it.
See ya.